Well, coming up first, it's Russia versus Italy in the compound women's open team event, and a bronze medal up for grabs on the 50-metre range. Well, it's the losing semi-finalists that have to play off for the bronze medal. Russia losing out to China 2-16 to 2-13 in the semi-finals, and Italy losing out to Great Britain 2-30 to 2-24. So it's Russia versus Italy. Let's welcome the teams out onto the range here in Den Bosch. Well, Russia lead us out, 29-year-old Stepanida Artakhinova, Tatiana Andrievskaia, who's 40 years old, and the 35-year-old Anastasia Dzhioeva.
Of course, Artakhinova also shoots on the World Cup team for Russia sometimes, so we've seen her more often than some of these para-athletes.
Well, Russia go up against Italy. 22-year-old Andrea, Virgilio, 33-year-old Eleonora, Sarti, and the 32-year-old Giulia, Pesci.
Sarti used to be a wheelchair basketball player, but she's been shooting archery for a long, long time now. Very experienced member of the team.
Well, Russia shot a 20-37 in the ranking round to come out number 1 seeds. Italy a 20-33 to come out 3rd seeds. So a very impressive lineup here for the women's team bronze medal match. Now, Chris, just explain the women's open para archery. How does one qualify for this event?
In the open divisions in para archery, athletes tend to have an impairment in the top or bottom half of their bodies. Now, W1 athletes who have an impairment in the bottom and top half of their bodies, they can also compete in this compound open competition. But the majority will just be one or the other.
Well, we're almost ready to go. And shooting first on target 1 will be Russia. That is a cracking start. Well, a perfect 30 from the 3 Russian athletes. Well, our little wind meter in the bottom right there showing you that the wind direction is changing. It's settled down a little bit here, but archers prefer a consistent wind rather than one that's blowing in different directions. You can see that the wind isn't strong. That sock is not blowing heavily, but it is moving around. Well, 57 out of a possible 60 for Russia is a great start for them. Italy potentially are on 27, so could match this with 3 10s. But their third arrow is subject to a measure.
So you'll see on the Italian team that Giulia Pesci, she shoots from her wheelchair, whereas Eleonora and Maria Andrea, they actually transfer from their wheelchairs onto stools to shoot their arrows. It's perfectly permitted under the rules.
So a 54 on the scoreboard with a 10 will mean Italy trail Russia after the first end by 3. That already goes up to 5. But we're going to have a measure on one of the arrows, and that is already quite important. A 5-point lead currently for Russia could be reduced to 4. Well, I didn't quite hear that one, Chris. We're trying to listen out for the target judges, but we will get a confirmed score very shortly. It's the Italian score we're looking at. Potentially could be marked up to 53. Was a cracking start from the Russian team, though. 3 athletes with different impairments, showing how the open category can allow for athletes of different impairments to take part.
Yeah, and perform at an exceptionally high level. 57 points is a score that any team would be happy with to open a final at a World Championship. And actually it was Stepanida Artakhinova, the most experienced of the Russian athletes, who dropped the lowest scoring arrow. The 8.
Yeah, the last arrow of the end. And can confirm that Italy have actually been marked up. So rather than trailing by 5 points, they're down by 4. But as always in archery, the trailing team will shoot first in the next end.
Teams so close together, they almost look like they're sitting on top of each other. It's really tight on the line.
Well, good recovery and fight back from Italy, a 29 out of a possible 30.
Anastasia Dzhioeva. She's missing her left limb, so she uses a brace. And a release aid attached to that brace to pull back the string. It looks like she's executing the shot by biting down on the mouthpiece, and that will open the clasp with the release and send the arrow towards the target.
Very innovative. But essentially all of these athletes, whatever their impairment, still have the same idea as an able-bodied archer, that you just want to have the same process over and over again and just repeat that and make sure your sight is targeted in on the center.
Yeah, in essence, none of these devices, none of the assistive devices allow for any advantage. They're just allowing them to shoot at the same level. These athletes can enter any competition with these assistive devices and use them in any competition.
Got a close-up there of Dzhioeva's release aid. And that's Andrievskaia's last first shot outside the 10 ring. And here we get a view of closer view of Dzhioeva's I should say, release aid.
Fantastic bits of technology. I mean, none of this is bought from the shop. It's all handmade, homemade. Yeah.
Well, a 56 following a 57 for Russia puts them on 113. Italy have improved and shot the best score in an end, a 58 in that second end, but they still trail by 2 points. But Chris, that improvement from Italy, if that's the direction they're moving in, one would expect them to at least draw level in the next end.
I wouldn't like to predict the future there, Karen, but 58 again, 58s, 57s, that's the kind of competitive scoring we'd expect to see at a World Championship level, para or otherwise.
Well, it was a 56 from Russia and a 58 from Italy, and here are all of those arrows.
Height's correct, left, right's correct from both teams. Nothing to change in the sights, just got to hit the middle.
Italy's grouping, apart from those 2 nines, they take those out, the one from Russia, one's from Italy. The Italian grouping just a little bit tighter than the Russians. And you can see the conditions are just chilly enough for the athletes to go to the effort of putting on a cardigan or a top just to keep themselves warm in between the ends.
I think Eleonora Sarti is even wrapping her grip to keep it warm as well.
So Italy still trailing, so they will shoot first in the third end of this bronze medal match. Another look at our windometer, and it is blowing yet again in a different direction.
It's been changing all day. Earlier it was coming straight at the athletes, now it's coming right to left and a bit from behind, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. But one thing, and I don't want to tempt Providence here, is that we were, well, almost promised rain by the forecast a little bit earlier on today, and so far it's held off. Just as I say that, Chris, the skies are starting to open.
It's your fault. Pesci flung her arm a little bit to the left, her bow arm. She let that one go. And the arrow landed left.
Well, a sport where opportunity presents itself every now and again, and the question is, can you take it? Russia can open up their lead here. You get a very good look at that release aid in the mouth of Dzhioeva. The 10 to gain another point on the Italians for Russia. Well, all square, so Russia maintain their 2-point lead. And a little bit of adjustment on the sight there from Artakhinova. And Chris, look, with these weather conditions changing, we've already talked about the wind and the fact that it's changing direction. With the rain, well, drips and drops falling every now and again, how much of an effect does that have on an archer?
In terms of the actual physical flight of the arrow, very, very little. The most annoying thing about rain is keeping the bow dry. While it may look fantastic, especially in slow motion shots when the bow's wet and it explodes off in a fountain of spray, it can get slippy, the grip can get slippy, the string gets heavy and slippy, and it can affect your sight mark on the target.
We get a very good close-up of the top of the bow there.
That's the cam, that's the pulley system, the wheels that make a compound what it is. It's the let-off. So when you pull back a compound bow, it starts at a high poundage and it ends up at a low poundage when you get back to your face. You may start pulling 60 pounds, hold only 50 pounds when you're aiming. Makes it much easier to aim really, really, really accurately at the center of the target.
And those arms that we see coming off the bow, they're used to try and keep a balance on the bow?
Well, the stabilizers are there to balance the bow and to absorb the vibration when it lets go, and then to help the reaction of the bow. So if you didn't have those stabilizers when the bow shot, it would kind of come back towards the archer, but putting the weight in front allows it to jump a little bit. Many compound archers prefer it to stay quite still, which is why you'll see heavier weights on the back small rod.
Well, Italy trailing by just a single point.
8.
Can you hear the difference in sound when the arrow lands in the target in the gold and in the 8? It's the different kind of foam that's behind the gold that gives it that.
Well, you can actually see in between the targets the foam from where they've put the single targets rather than the double targets. And why is that? Is that because you want to hear the sound of the higher score?
It's actually just a different type of foam that has to put up with a lot more shots through it.
9.
Well, Italy not shooting badly, a 26 out of a potential 30, but Russia starting with an X.
Just watch Anastasia's mouth as she lets this arrow go. It's phenomenal. Just biting down.
Oh, you're right. I said it, Chris. The rain looked like it was going to hold off, and now it is coming down in buckets. Well, if anything, it's made the Italians shoot better. Still, though, a big opportunity for the Russians to build even more on their lead as the umbrellas are up everywhere in the stands.
Fantastic last arrow from Artakhinova, just outside the 10 ring. Well-deserved win.
Yeah, a great win from the Russian team there. The Italians fought back hard when the rain started coming down, but Russia were just too strong throughout there. 57, 56, 54 and 56 took them to 223 and the bronze medal in the women's compound team event. Well, they're just waiting for confirmation from the target judge of the scores, but it would have to be a mighty swing around on that 9. It can only be marked up to a 10, but we have to wait for confirmation. Well, there you go. Confirmation that Russia have taken this one. The bronze medal here in Den Bosch goes to Andrievskaia, Artakhinova and Dzhioeva of Russia.